Okay.
Hey guys, this is me from like an hour into the episode. We talked about this show for a long time because there was a lot to say. So we are splitting this into 2 episodes. This episode is going to be exclusively about the BBC series Robin Hood. Part 2 will be all about Avatar, The Last Airbender. So if you want to hear our thoughts on the BBC series Robin Hood, stick around. And if not, stick around.
Don't even give him that option.
Listen to this one, and then by the time the next episode comes out, that will be our thoughts on The Last Airbender.
Yeah. Very good. Good job.
Thank you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. We need more white guys giving their insight on things they don't understand. I like feet. I thought you were just like your favorite.
I'm gonna go get my flamethrowers.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, hello.
Hi.
It's been a while.
It has been a while. It's been a month, actually, since
Has
our
it been
last
a month?
episode.
I thought it's been like a couple months.
Actually, maybe
Like
more than a month,
February.
because it was like just the end of February, and we're at the beginning of April, so it's been about a month and a half.
Yeah.
We're sorry.
Well, I'm not, because we're being good and staying away from each other as much as we can.
Yes,
during
6 feet.
Yes, we're like in opposite corners of the room right now. This is the first time I've been
No
over
more
in a few
cuddle
weeks.
sessions for
Yeah.
a while.
But we're being good and social distancing.
Being very good.
I hope everyone is safe out there.
It's
been an
it's
insane.
crazy the Backstreet Boys reunion tour. Have you heard about that?
Yeah.
On Game Grumps, because like apparently I don't know if YouTube does it anymore, but they were like demonetizing videos that
Really?
mentioned COVID-19, and so
dumb.
Game Grumps, some famous
You
YouTubers
can't talk
of
about a
ours-
really important subject in the world.
Yeah, I know. It's like what
What?
if people like it could be helpful to talk
YouTube
about.
just wants to be this pure little clean slate of neutral everything.
Yeah, YouTube sucks.
Yeah, it's
even
so
though
dumb.
I upload frequently.
I don't get I don't get how COVID-19 could be like seen as like, oh, we don't want to air our ads on that. Like, yes, you do, because
I feel like that's like a hot topic now.
your
so,
company needs to make money right now.
yeah, and people are wanting to learn more about it. So,
Which, can I make a mini rant about something involving ads?
well, I just wanted to say the Game Grumps because
Oh yeah,
I didn't.
go.
So instead of saying COVID-19 or coronavirus, they dubbed it the Backstreet Boys reunion tour, and
Oh.
like catching the virus was like getting those tickets.
Oh my God.
it's really hilarious.
That's great.
But yeah, what were you gonna say about ads?
Have you been seeing all these stupid commercials?
I don't see a whole lot of commercials.
I made a tweet about it, but there's all these commercials trying to like be all emotional, like chain restaurants, like showing
like the
showing
Subway.
footage of like the restaurants being empty.
Oh
'Cause
no, I haven't.
I've seen like I hit my microphone stand. I've seen like
I
at
forgive
least
you.
3 different like chain restaurant ads where they're showing like it's all desaturated and it's showing like slow camera movements through their empty restaurants, and they're like, during this hard time, it's like people are having to stay home, and it's
so
like
sad that you're not giving
it's
us
like,
money.
yeah, they're like, but we have always been there for you. So, and like, please consider our delivery options. And it's so like manipulative and
It's very
like,
depressing too.
yeah, I'm like, I don't
Like just be like, hey, we know that you're stuck at home, so why don't you order delivery?
Yeah.
And that's it.
yeah,
all
that's
you
like
really
perfectly fine to advertise your delivery service, because that's how restaurants are making money right now. But these places being like, we've always been there. If it was like a local restaurant or something,
need. We
that'd
were
be
there
fine.
at your grandmother's funeral.
But like, I don't
We
need,
showed-
I don't need Hardee's acting like they're my dad. Like, I don't need your cheesy
know.
melt.
Their
I don't know.
their cinnamon raisin biscuits are to die for, though.
It made me so mad, and I see them all the time. All these places trying
I
to
have not seen
trying
those,
to
but
like guilt
that's
trip
hilarious,
people,
though.
like, oh, our restaurant's empty, give us money because we're $1 billion corporation and we need all your money.
Please help.
It made me so mad. But anyways, I've been seeing those constantly on YouTube.
That is hilarious. That's pretty funny.
I'll have to show you after because it's so
Or
stupid.
go through our drive-through, please.
I won't
me
be
see.
surprised if like some commentator YouTube commentator.
Yeah, That sounds right.
Commentator, like YouTuber,
Commentator.
makes a video about those ads or something.
Or at least mention
it's like
it, yeah.
perfect bait for a YouTube video.
Yeah.
So
while all these businesses are failing, the one business, I guess niche, whatever, that is still thriving is those who entertain on the internet, and that includes us, even though we don't make any money.
Yeah.
Aside from the $5 that we've made from
we're your only
AdSense.
source of joy during this horrible time.
We've honestly only made like $5 this whole time that we've made this podcast. So
That's $5 more than I expected.
yeah, true.
But so we recently, just to get back on topic here.
This is one of the reasons why it took forever for us to make a podcast, because we wanted to do this before we were ready you know, to do it.
So each of us watched each other's, like, I don't think is Robin Hood your favorite show?
Okay, so
let's get this out of the way real quick.
This is something good to bring up because it was something that confused people recently, because I did one of those stupid quizzes on Facebook where you create your own questions and you have like multiple answers and you see who, like, what friends on Facebook know you the best.
Oh, okay.
And one of the questions was like, what is my favorite show? And I put Robin Hood in there to throw people off.
It's Breaking Bad though, right?
It is Breaking Bad, but Robin Hood for the longest time, like from my teens on up until like, I don't know, 2015 or 2016 or whatever, right? Whenever I started watching real shows, Robin Hood was my favorite show, and I don't really mean that as a diss to Robin Hood. It was made during a time of BBC when like everything was cheap, everything was like low budget or whatever.
Being low, I mean, I won't dive into it yet, but I just want to make a comment that for being like kind of low budget, and like I feel like it's campy and low budget in the best way. Yeah. Because it doesn't look bad. Like, it still has some
a lot of
really
good redeeming qualities.
It has some really impressive sets and stuff. But anyways.
Some good cinematography.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Robin Hood was my favorite show. And I guess, well, the reason why we picked these two shows also is because they're both like childhood favorites of ours, even though I guess Avatar still is your favorite show.
It's still my favorite show of all time. It's one of those where I can just like throw it on and watch it at any point. For a while, I started thinking maybe Star Trek The Next Generation was my favorite show. And originally, actually, Clifford was saying, hey, I can watch maybe a couple seasons of TNG and you do Robin Hood. And I was like, and part of me, even though I still want you to watch it, that the first like 2 or 3 seasons of that show are not great. Yeah. And it would have been an awful impression. But later on, it's so good. Yeah. But you really do have to like let it simmer, you know, you have to get into it.
Kind of like a slow
and there's
burn.
like 7 seasons and they're all like 30 episodes. Like,
and
it's a lot.
That was another reason why this was perfect for these two shows, because both of them are just 3 seasons and that's it.
Yeah. So and another reason we did these is like, you know, his favorite show is Breaking Bad. I could have done that, but I've seen that. So the thing with this is neither of us have seen these shows. So he had never watched Avatar: The Last Airbender. Mm-hmm. I have never watched the Robin Hood BBC series. So we basically did a show. I think
we like tried to watch a couple episodes together.
You showed me a couple, and I remember liking it, but I just never really had a way to watch it. Otherwise, I probably would have. But
it used to be on Netflix.
Yeah.
Now it's like on. I think it's on Amazon Prime. Oh, Hulu. Okay. Yeah. And the DVDs, which I just let you borrow the DVDs.
I forgot to bring those back.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Next time.
Very thick DVD case.
Very thick.
Yeah, we did a show swap of one of his favorite shows, and I did my favorite show. And they're both 3 seasons, so it was just like the ideal swap. And they're both like, they're not long shows. Like, each season are kind of
perfectly
like, Robin Hood's probably a little longer, but it's still like 12, 13 episodes a season.
Like Avatar has more episodes in a season, but
the
episodes are shorter.
Yeah, because it was built for like Nickelodeon. They're like 20 minutes probably.
Yeah. And I gotta say that I don't think I've ever been as excited to do an episode as this one.
Good.
Because like, and you know, because I was bugging you constantly because you took a little longer to finish Robin Hood.
I did, because
and I'm like,
you watched Avatar really fast, and I was kind of shocked, but that makes me.
I got really into it.
Yeah, that makes me happy because I was like, okay, he's into it, and I don't. want that to imply I was into Robin Hood, because I really was, but I'm so bad at watching shows consistently.
Yeah.
It's really, especially because for a while I was using the DVD player in the living room, but I hate hogging the living room because my roommate Matt, he doesn't care, but I don't want to be like a jerk.
You're just very self-conscious.
Yeah, I'm just self-conscious. Like, I know he probably doesn't care, but I don't want to like hog the living room. So I usually hang out in my room.
You guys will have a talk, I'm sure. It's like, hey, we should talk about this.
But I try to be considerate. So I for a while I would go like a week without watching, and then I was like, okay, I'll set up like something in my room, and I watched it that way. Yeah. And then a bunch of games I was excited for came out, like Doom and like Animal Crossing and all this stuff, and I just kept getting distracted because I'm a nerd and I want to play video games. And then I started watching like other things, like, and I got into watching a bunch of movies.
Okay, yeah.
So I started, not shows, but like movies and stuff, and so I just got distracted a lot because so much stuff I was interested in was like happening at once. Yeah. So it was sort of bad timing for me, but I put a lot of things aside and made time for it, and I finished it like sometime around last week. But I really enjoyed it. So I guess we can hop into Robin Hood now. We're going to start with Robin Hood, and then after this discussion, we'll talk about Airbender.
Because I also did, we'll talk about Robin Hood and we'll talk about Avatar because that's the more popular show, and I feel like people will.
We're going to make you wait for it.
We're going to make you wait unless you skip ahead.
Although when I was looking up, I was just kind of curious one day, and I was looking up like blogs about the Robin Hood show.
Probably aren't a lot, are there?
There weren't, but I found some blogs of like, there was like a blogger spot thing, and this girl was like reviewing the seasons, and she was like, I hope Gisborne gets, I want him to have a good character arc. I love him. He's so hot. And it was like this person like fangirling over Gisborne so hard.
I mean, I think funny. Out of like all the guys, I think most fans like fangirled over Gisborne than any of the characters.
I kind of fan
even Robin Hood.
I love Guy.
I mean, Richard Armitage was the most successful actor out of that whole show.
He was my favorite character.
Yeah,
I really liked him.
Yeah,
he's really cool.
Yeah, he's great, and he comes such a long way from like the. I guess we're just gonna get into this.
Yeah, so now let's jump into it.
Do we want to start with just talking about Gisborne, or
I'll just I'll give like a general impressions of my show.
What were your impressions?
So I'll talk about my impressions, maybe a couple of like my favorite moments or episodes, and what I think of the actors. I'll just kind of do a brief synopsis of like the show without going too in depth. And
also, don't be afraid of hurting my feelings.
No, I won't.
I am very aware. I have criticism.
I have criticisms, but they're nothing to where I'm like bad show.
Yeah.
Overall, I'm not going to give like a number rating because I can't number rate.
It's a show.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that. I could do that for episodes maybe.
That's why I don't really like shows being on Letterboxd now.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Unless, I mean, I guess Chernobyl, like if it's
IMDb
like very
at least
cinematic,
does it by episode.
Okay,
and then
that
they
makes
average
sense.
it, which is cool.
Which I did notice. I looked up the IMDb for Robin Hood.
It's pretty good.
And it's good, but I did notice the third season kind of goes down a little bit.
Yeah, which makes sense.
We'll talk about that.
That makes sense for me, but I still think the first season was probably my favorite. It had the best moments in my opinion, but
I agree. I think there are some things about the first season that are, because of course it's like it's the start of the show, and there's some like obvious like low budget things to point out, and I think that the show kind of increases in quality in that area, but sometimes decreases in some like story aspects.
Yeah, totally. And I like the setting up of characters, and my favorite parts of shows are learning about the characters and kind of seeing them develop, where they started and all that stuff.
Yeah. Season 1, I think, is the most rewatched season for me, honestly.
Totally.
And that's why I'm a little nervous, because I realize anytime that I rewatch the show, I start with season 1 and I'm doing good for a while, and then I kind of forget about it. And so it's been a while since I've rewatched like half of season 2 and season 3.
Well, the thing about this show, and I actually like shows like this, because there's not really shows like it anymore, where each episode is just kind of like a thing that's happening and we have sort of a resolution by the end. There is an ongoing conflict and a thing, but I like how a lot of the time it's like, oh, here's the situation for this episode and here's this, and it's not as like individualistic per episode as something like Star Trek, but it still has that old TV show vibe to it, where like if you just saw an episode on TV, you could just watch it.
I think this show came out when like shows started to become more like cinematic and more like storyline.
It's a good blend of like
of both.
I like that. I like that about it. I don't really. Sometimes I do. Like a show like Breaking Bad is like phenomenal with like this long ongoing like one,
or like
plot
Game
line.
of Thrones or
But something like Star Trek, you can just turn on any episode and watch it, and there's a conflict and a resolution.
Which actually, I guess with Avatar is pretty much the same.
Yeah,
too.
There is one goal that it's like a one long line, but there's just branches.
Yeah.
Every now and then we're like, okay, we'll go off and do this thing, but we still have this one goal we need to get to.
Yeah.
Where Star Trek really doesn't even have that.
Yeah.
It has like a
we're just in space.
Yeah, that's the point. Is like they just go around to find planets and discover things, and it's a clever idea for a show. But
it's very classic.
The campiness of this show reminds me of Star Trek, honestly.
Yeah,
and in a great way.
Which is one of the reasons why I wanted to do that originally.
But I really liked it overall. I definitely feel like each season maybe got a little worse, but not like to the point where it was bad. Like I still don't think that season 3 was even bad, like close to being bad. I think season 1 was like really, really good, especially like the finale and.
And the finales are like the best part of like each season.
The finales were always great, and I loved the characters. Like I think Jonas Armstrong is I know why you like him as Robin Hood so much. He's really, really good as Robin Hood.
He's probably my favorite depiction of Robin Hood, honestly.
I agree.
I gotta tell you, I guess I'll get into like when I first discovered Robin Hood. I was like 13.
Yeah.
My family didn't have internet at the time or anything, so like our source of entertainment was to like go to the library, pick up whatever DVDs we find and such. And this was when we were living in Missouri, and the library there, it was a huge library, and their big thing was like they didn't have a whole bunch of like movies. They had a lot of TV shows, and they had a lot of like British shows that we loved. That was great for us. We watched because we grew up with that stuff.
Yeah,
and then I started watching this show called Robin of Locksley, or is it Robin of Sherwood? I forget. It was like this old 80s Robin Hood show, and I was like, oh, maybe this is good. And I started watching it, and it's definitely very 80s, but I didn't really like it because there were a lot of like fantasy elements mixed in with it, and I didn't really like a lot of the characters. So I'm like, this is not that good. But then like next on the shelf, there's a show, Robin Hood. I'm like, well, maybe this is good.
Yeah.
And me and my brother started watching it together. And I just fell in love, and like I was already like a fan of Robin Hood and like the lore and everything. He was like my favorite fictional character. But this show, like I don't know what it was, but like I fell in love with it. And Jonas Armstrong, I had this like strong connection with his character for some reason, because like I wanted to be him. He was like my teen idol at the time. And it got so bad as to like I would think about like what he would do subconsciously in any situation I was in.
I feel like we all kind of like had something like that with people in shows or movies growing
I
up.
guess, I don't know. I felt kind of like, oh, this is silly, but this is just who I am. And so I even had like I had my hair like him at the time. If you've seen like old pictures of me, I had like the swoop. People called it the Bieber cut, but for me it was the Robin Hood cut.
Yeah, totally.
So, and he was just so cool, and I loved how like he's not always like this perfect dashing character, but he also has like a lot of flaws. And
that was a point I wanted to make about the show that I really liked, is that as campy and kind of like lighthearted as it was, I was kind of worried that his character was going to be kind of lame
Yeah.
and just like perfect, and I do everything right and everyone looks up to me, and people do look up to him and stuff, but I loved that he had quarrels with his crew, and I loved
there are episodes where you even just hate him. You're just like, what the heck, dude?
Yeah, like, and I love his dynamic with Much, like Sam Troughton. I loved it was one of my favorite characters too. He's just really charming. He's
great.
Yeah, I just loved it. It was a good dynamic and cast of characters, and I like that his character wasn't. I love when characters are flawed, but in like a realistic way, and it doesn't feel forced. Like, okay, this is like he's perfect, but now we have to have that one episode where he's really bad.
Well, even like from the get-go, from like the first 2 episodes, you see him as this like honorable person, but also behind that, and this is kind of a common theme throughout the show, is that he just wants everyone to love him, and he does certain things
to a fault
for glory.
Oh, what is it with men and glory? Glory above sense and above reason?
It is principle.
Principle is making a difference, and you can't do that if you're dead. You could have stayed here in the first place instead of following your king to the Holy Land if you'd cared so much about your precious people. But you didn't. You chose war. You chose glory.
What is this about?
It is about you saying that you care about the people of Loxley when the truth is you ran off to battle thousands of miles away.
Because, like, he knows, like, oh, this is going to be something that's going to be admirable, and so people are going to like me because of it. And they point that out right at the beginning of the show, and, like, oh, that's so good, you know?
Yeah, I really, really like that. And even sometimes you're just like, he's kind of being, like, a D-bag. Yeah. Like, it was probably, was it the first episode? But it's the one he's, like, making out with this girl behind a curtain, and her dad is, like, just
the
out
very first episode,
yeah. And it's like, no, that's our introduction to him, and he just, like, runs away when the dad's, like, he's very, like, he's cool, but he's not, you know, someone you look up to all the time. But it's at the same time you can understand, like, where he's coming from, even if you disagree. Like the episode in season 1, which is probably still like my favorite episode, is the one where they capture Sir Guy, and he figures out he was the dude in the battle, and he wants to kill him.
Gnarly. It's
and
one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's probably my favorite episode still, and everyone is like, Much is
tattoo. What tattoo?
Yeah, and everyone gets mad and is like, you're being crazy, and Much tries to speak reason to him, and he kind of think it's gonna work, and then it doesn't. And Much is just like, fine, I'm done with you, and they leave. And I just thought it was cool, and it didn't feel corny or forced.
No! Stop! I will not take part in this. You will regret this. You will see sense, and you will regret it.
This does not concern you much.
You are my master. Everything concerns me. I have followed you into battle. I have followed you into the forest. But I will not follow you into torture.
Then leave me.
If I thought you meant that, go!
Yeah.
There is a lot of camp, like, especially the action when he does his flips, and it's like, whoa, 3 cuts of a flip.
Yeah,
it's really dorky, but it's so, like, old school TV Star Trek.
Yeah, and they even kind of mention it in behind the scenes, I think, is that they kind of intentionally made Robin Hood this sort of, like, almost like superhero-ish, like, because, like,
very
athletic. I don't think in any other Robin Hood are his, like, antics so ridiculous. Like, when he, like, shoots his arrows, like, you know.
Yeah.
It's but I mean, it's fun to watch, but, like,
it's
back,
dorky, but it's
like,
charming. Like, I didn't watch this, so I don't have nostalgia for it, and I was still enjoying it.
Yeah.
Like, I can put myself in a mindset of, like, okay, I know when this came out, so it, like, stuff like that isn't gonna bother me, you know, and I enjoy it, honestly, to an extent. It's nice.
Yeah.
If the show is really grim and dark and serious all the time, and that was happening, I'd be like, this is kind of like a clash of tones, but it balances. It has serious moments.
Yeah.
But it's not this it's not Game of Thrones with flips, you know.
Right.
It very much knows what it is. It's not trying too hard to be serious, but it knows when to take itself seriously and not intrude on a serious moment with stuff like that. Like it does really well.
It's done really well.
Especially the whole thing with like Marion like dying and stuff, like that whole thing. And
spoilers.
We're talking. I mean, obvious spoilers, but.
She dies twice in the show.
Yeah. I was like, they really fake you out. Poor Marion.
What did you feel about that? Did you feel like that was a cop-out the first time she, quote-unquote, died?
It didn't... No, not really.
Okay.
Sorta. But I remember watching it. I was like, oh, she's dead. I was like, no, something's going to happen. She's going to be alive. And then I was like, oh... okay, I guess not. And then she was alive. And then I was like, okay, I guess I was wrong. And then it happened again. She actually was dead. So I feel like it was, to me, it made the actual death a little more impactful because that kind of makes you think, oh, she's just going to be invincible for the whole show. Yeah. So I feel like maybe it made the second part like be like, oh, dang. But again, it's kind of funny that she dies twice.
I'm not being funny, right? She's breathing.
On the blade. She's breathing.
Told ya.
What? Position's draft. I've heard of this before. Hemlock. Too much and the body freezes. Breathing stops. But if one is young and strong, the body fights back. Comes back from the dead.
She died.
And came back.
Nice. Marion?
Pain?
I don't know. But I'm glad you're back.
But it didn't really bother me.
It's like a common joke amongst the very small Robin Hood fandom. Yeah, I think I cried both times that it happened.
Yeah, I was surprisingly invested. Not like surprisingly, but as... you know, for someone who didn't know anything about the show, didn't grow up with it, I was surprised I actually did get invested in the characters and stuff.
That's because it's one of the best parts of the show is the characters.
Yeah,
really.
it's a very character-driven show, and those tend to be my favorite kinds of shows, are ones that focus on the cast. Like, they could have done really shallow and just had it always been about them, like, robbing people and been, like, the very stereotypical Robin Hood show, but it was really interesting, which it does have that, obviously, but it has a very interesting... tone and dynamic for Robin Hood, and I like that they focus on more characters than just Robin Hood, because I feel like a lot of times in a Robin Hood story you don't, you know, there's like Little John and stuff people know about, but like I like Much more than Little John, for example. Like they didn't just make the well-known things the best things.
Yeah, Much is like one of the, before this show, he was like one of the most unknown and uncared about characters.
Yeah, I didn't even know.
And usually
he was a
it
thing.
is Little John that's like Robin Hood's sidekick.
Yeah, early on I was like, oh, Little John isn't really that important at first.
I mean, yeah, at first, because like they don't even know each other. He's like the leader of the outlaws.
But I loved Much, like in the first season.
Much is great. He's like one of the... And I'm sure like people give... Well, he gets a lot of flack on the show. Yeah. Like everyone just
he's
like
kind of
messes
dumb,
with him.
But he's like... He's kind of the comic relief.
He is.
But he's still... He's still lovable.
Yeah,
you know,
he is lovable, and you relate to him. Like I related to him a lot because, like I mentioned how like I really wanted to be Robin Hood as a teen, but there are often times I'm like, man, I want to be Robin Hood, but there are a lot of times where I just feel like Much, you know. So
I like
you relate
Much.
to him in that aspect.
You just want everyone to love you.
No, I do not want to be branded a killer. It is different.
You want to be loved. And I tell you something, it's not fair. I love you, but no one gives me any food. Yet people who do not love you are fed.
Oh, Much.
The world is wrong. We're feeding people who do not love us and saving a man who wants us dead. I've changed my mind. I no longer love you. Now can I eat?
I like Much a lot because even though he's the comic relief, sometimes he was like the voice of reason, kind of like he held Robin accountable in a few episodes, which I love because I like when the comic relief isn't only stupid. Like he was silly and goofy and did dumb things, especially in the first episodes and stuff when they are, which I remember the first episode. I think this was the first one when they think they fend off the people that were like attacking them, and he starts like smack talking them. He's like, "Yeah, you better run," and then they all come back with like 1,000 people. And I was like,
I
"Shut
shouldn't
up!"
have said that.
I was like, "Dude, shut up!"
Don't show your faces here again, cowards! Quiet. Why? We have won, and they should be ashamed. Shame on you! Come back here again, and my master and I shall see that you leave with more than just your tails between your legs.
My master and I. There are only two of them.
I shouldn't have said that. Run, Robin. Run.
But he was great. I really liked him. Him and Robin were like my favorite, I guess, dynamic duo.
Yeah, they had great chemistry, and honestly, much as loyalty to Robin Hood is very endearing, and it kind of reminds you of like Sam and Frodo, of Lord of the Rings, which is funny because the actor's name is Sam Troughton.
Like Merry and Pippin as one person sometimes.
Yeah,
maybe it's just the way he looks. He looks kind of like Merry a little bit, but.
Which Sam Troughton, actually, fun fact, he was on the hit HBO miniseries Chernobyl. If you rewatch it, you'll probably. Well, I don't think you've ever seen it.
No.
You should.
I need to.
He's one of the like lead, I guess, scientists that are working in the I don't know the factory or whatever. So you can check him out in that.
Nice. That's really cool.
But yeah, how did you feel about the Robin Hood and Marion relationship?
I liked it. I thought Marion was really cool. It kind of. There were times where I got a little annoyed with like the love triangle thing. Yeah. Which it wasn't awful. It wasn't like Twilight levels, but sometimes I was just like, make up your mind. Like she's like, I'm gonna marry Sir Guy. And
a lot of it was mostly like she never really loved Guy in the first place. Yeah. A lot of it was a lot of manipulation on her part because she's working for the good guys, and so she has to manipulate Guy of Gisborne. Yeah. And I think at first she kind of tended to defend him, but I think that's mostly because
it was mostly early on. She was just a little naive about it.
But I think it was mostly because she wanted to counteract Robin because she kind of hated him at the time. Yeah. She's like, no, you're wrong. Guy is not that bad. And he's like, yeah, he is. Yeah, she did kind of defend him at times because she could see the good in him, which there was some good in him. She was right. Yeah, I remember whenever my dad like ever stepped in to watch the show. I don't think he's ever watched the whole show. That was like his least favorite part about it. It's like,
yeah, I didn't think it was bad, but there was moments where I was like, okay, this is a little annoying. But a lot of the time it worked really well, and I liked that she's sort of like independent. Like she's I'm trying to remember, but it's the episode where Robin is getting framed for all these things going on, but it turns out to be Marion. She's like the man, and
the Night Watchman.
Night Watch, that's what it was. But it ended up being her, and it turns out she's actually, I don't know. I'm not super familiar with other Robin Hood.
No,
like,
Night
shows.
Watchman is completely original.
Okay,
I never been a thing.
I like that she's kind of secretly really.
Like she's like actually a good fighter and everything.
I like that aspect. I like that they give her something to do, and she's not just a damsel. She's not exclusively a love interest. I like that she has stuff to do. As a relationship, it's maybe not the best, but as a character, I think she works pretty well.
I think it works. They handle that a lot better than most like shows or movies these days when they try to make women seem like independent and strong. Like this, it doesn't seem shoehorned at all.
Yeah, it works really well.
You kind of side with her.
It's kind of like Mulan.
Yeah,
where she's kind of just doing what people expect her to do, but then secretly, she's doing her thing. And I think it's a really cool dynamic, and I liked that. When I was watching, I was like, "Is that supposed to be Marion?" Because I feel like maybe I already knew that for some reason. Maybe it was an episode, but I feel like I guessed it was going to be. I can't remember if it's because I watched the episode with you though.
I think so, because I think we did end up watching the finale of season 1 together for some random reason.
Because that episode,
I think I just put it on.
Yeah,
and she was
while
in
I was
that
watching
one.
it, I was like, oh wait, yeah, isn't that supposed to be? I don't think I would have guessed it was if I didn't watch it first, but
I can't remember if I did either.
But I liked her a lot. I thought she was really cool.
Yeah, I think she starts, in terms of the actress Lucy Griffiths, I think she starts off the show a little stiff. You kind of notice it when you rewatch it from the beginning, but she definitely grows into her character.
Yeah,
more.
you can see some of the actors like get used to their characters and really like find themselves. A lot of shows kind of are like that. Because it's always funny when you finish a show and you go back to the first episode and it's like, this is like weird.
Yeah.
Because it's such a slow incline of that character and the actor becoming one that when you go back you realize how different it was. But yeah, she was great. And Sir Guy was definitely my favorite character.
Well, we can talk about him right now. It's time for us to go on a break right now, and so stay tuned, everyone. We will be back to talk about more Robin Hood. Dun, 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 dun,
it's a good theme song.
Oh yeah,
I like the theme song.
All right, see you in a bit, or not see you, I guess.
No.
Hello, Father Mitchell.
Hello.
I just want to say that I am very grateful for the fact that you created me all those years ago and named me your son. I am a robot. You are my creator and my father.
Who's your daddy?
You are.
That's right.
But I also want to open up and say that sometimes I feel very alone and feel like that there may be others out there who feel the same.
Well, son, have you tried BetterHelp.com?
I'll have to think about that.
Okay.
But mostly, I did some research and found out about podcasts.
Yeah.
I thought maybe it would be cool to start a show where I can connect with other robots in this world, and so that we may share the same feelings. But I don't know how to start a podcast. Hold on. Wait a minute. I am doing some research.
Put a little love in it.
That is good advice, Father. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hold on. I am finding out about this website called Anchor.fm. If you haven't, this is something that I'm reading on their website. If you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Wow, that's crazy, isn't it, Father Mitchell?
That's insane, my child.
Anchor apparently has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer, or if you're a robot, just your own body. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcast, and more.
Wow. I'm reacting to that statement.
It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. I'm still learning English, Father. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
And best of all, Anchor is totally free. Wow.
That's amazing. How is that legal?
I know, it's so easy, it should be legal. Anyways, I am inspired, Father. Thank you again so much for being my father. I love you. I'm going to go make a podcast now.
Please move out. It's been 30 years.
Why must you treat me this way, Father?
Goodbye.
Bye.
Hey guys, so it's my turn to have my own ad right now for me. This is for me. So if you guys don't know already, I mean, some of you are already watching this on YouTube, so you already know. I actually have my own YouTube channel that I've been putting a lot of effort in and creative energy into, and it's called I'm Clifford Today. Basically what I do on there is that I talk about Christian music mainly, and I review it, I talk about it, I make videos that are about it. So if you've always thought like, man, Christian music just kind of sucks, and you want a YouTube channel that critiques it fairly, but also introduces maybe some good Christian music that you never heard of, then check my channel out. And also I've got some like serious like essay type videos where I talk about things having to do with Christian music. Like for instance, I did a video on one of my favorite old Newsboys songs and the backstory behind it and how much it means to me. And then I also just recently started an essay series on a Christian metal band called As I Lay Dying. So a bunch of fun stuff. I also plan on talking about other things in Christian entertainment other than music. I already have a video on video games, Christians in video games. So, man, what is that about? So please check out I'm Clifford Today on YouTube, or you can type in youtube.com/I'm Clifford Today. Go check it out. And also, you'll always see Podwood forecast episodes on there. Also, Mitchell shows up in a couple of my videos, and he will be a consistent guest on a lot of my videos. So that would be fun. You can see our faces instead of having to listen to us all the time. Okay, this ad is very long already, so I guess I'll talk to you guys. I don't know. Bye.
Hello. This is a joke I heard today. Why did the football coach go to the bank? Tick tock, to get his quarterback. See? Why did the football coach go to the bank to get his quarterback? Crazy. But I had to say that. Okay? Thank you, the person that told me that joke. Thank you.
Welcome back. Okay.
Clifford's apartment.
Wow, look at that. Clipped hardcore. Anyways,
it's just as jarring as it is in the show.
Darn right. Anyways, before we start talking about Sir Guy, my husband, I want to make fun of one aspect of the show that kind of ruined some moments for me. Well, because I didn't criticize the show much. I've only been praising it because I'm too nice. I will criticize something.
Time to crap on it.
Sometimes the editing is not good. And like, for instance, it's the episode with Jack. I think Jack. died. There's like a really sad moment.
Is it the first episode with Jack, or
it's like one where I think it was her.
Jack is a Saracen.
She dies. Doesn't she?
Dies.
No, who's the character? No, there's like a character that dies. I can't remember. It was in the first season when they saved Jack from being captured.
Okay.
And one of the characters dies or something. I'm trying to remember.
That is the same episode as when Robin Hood is being a jerk about Guy of Gisborne. They have Guy of Gisborne captured.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't that, but there is an episode.
Oh, is it the one with the brothers?
Oh, probably.
Yeah, with Alan Adale's brothers.
Yeah, there's an episode where they die and they're having like a sad moment, and I was like, this is sad. And then it does the thing with the arrow and the sound effect because it like changes. Or no, it's still on that scene, but it like they have like the arrow thing. All right, context. I don't know how to talk right now, but usually when they do a scene transition or a location, they'll have like an arrow, a graphic come on screen with the name of the place.
Yeah,
and it has,
it's
like,
not
a
really
sound
an
effect.
arrow. It's just like the text, just kind of like.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, we're in Sherwood Forest
and it has
now.
that sound effect every time.
Yeah, so there was a really sad like funeral moment, and that happens during it, and it ruined it so badly. I was like, no, why would you do that?
Well, yeah,
it's just like sad. Someone died. We're all here.
It's something.
It ruined it.
It's something that you get used to. Like I've kind of like
I totally did.
toned it out,
but it was like kind of early in the show for me, so I still I wasn't expecting them to still do it during like moments like that. I thought they would hold themselves back, but that part like it ruins.
No, it's more moments. Like we got to stick to this.
Yeah,
we've been
like,
doing it every time.
Yeah,
every time that I like when I've ever introduced the show to anyone, that was always like the jarring. They're just like, what the heck is that?
That's the only moment that's the only thing in the show that bugs me consistently. It's because it's such a dated thing, but that's really like one of the only things about the show in terms of it being old that is like but there was even one moment when the arrow happened and I thought it was actually happening in the show because I was like, was it getting shot at? I was like, oh wait, no, because the way the arrow went on screen, it like looked like it went into a tree or something. I can't remember, but it threw me off. But so it's that moment was kind of weird. Honestly, what else can I need to like think of things to complain about. Well, I don't like how. Well, we'll get into this. There's things I will critique, but we can talk about Sir Guy first.
Okay.
I like him a lot.
Sir Guy.
He's my favorite character in the show.
I also kind of, when the show starts off, his character comes off as he's very kind of one-dimensional. At first,
which is I think that's why I like him.
Yeah.
There's going to be a trend here because my favorite characters tend to be ones that seem evil or bad, but they kind
of turn into anti-heroes.
They kind of like, you start to see a little bit of humanity in them, and then they develop into a person you like. And those are my favorite kinds of characters. Like we'll talk about this obviously, but my favorite TV show character is Prince Zuko. He starts off just like that. He's a very one-dimensional villain.
I think that was one thing that I noticed watching the show. I was like, he's kind of pretty similar to Guy Gisborne, and they have a very similar character arc as well.
But he has, I love characters like that are like, it's the villain, and then they kind of like become friends with the main characters eventually. I love stuff like that when it's done
very
well.
Similar,
and his character was done pretty well. I feel like the redemption aspects maybe came a little too late. I feel like his death. This is the one thing that bugs me about it, though. I don't like when characters like that. I don't know if this is what was going through their minds, but I feel like a lot of people who write characters like that feel like, oh, this character did too much bad to be redeemed, so we have to kill them after they get redeemed so that you don't feel as bad about them dying. I don't know, but it's like with Kylo Ren, and this is super off topic, but it's related.
Star Wars.
But like Kylo Ren is similar, where he's like the villain, but you're like, oh, he's the only interesting aspect of the new movies.
Yeah,
but he's cool because it's like, oh, he's villain, but oh, maybe he's not bad, and then he gets redeemed. But then spoilers for Rise of Skywalker, who cares? It's like, oh, he did too much bad, so we have to kill him. But we'll still redeem him so he can have an arc. But we can't justify what he did, so we'll just kill him. So that way everyone's happy for people who didn't like. I don't know. I just noticed that a lot of shows where when a bad person does get redeemed, they feel like they still have to have their final moments be them like dying or like sacrificing themselves. Their only way to redeem themselves is to sacrifice themselves or something like that.
I feel like sometimes it's just a theme of like, well, they did a lot of bad things. So like, yes, they can be redeemed in a way, but there are still consequences to your actions.
And I like when the consequences are done in a way that isn't just they die. Yeah. So that's the only thing about it that I didn't like. But other than that, like everything leading up to that, I still really liked him as a character. He was the best part of the show. Yeah. I don't know if he's a usual returning Robin Hood character, or is he another?
Guy of Gisborne,
Okay.
He I feel like this show kind of emphasized his relationship with Robin Hood more than usual.
Yeah, and I like that. I like that they were constantly
usually it is the case in this show, but it's usually in other adaptions, it's like the Sheriff of Nottingham and Robin Hood, and Guy of Gisborne is kind of like a secondary character. Overarching is always Prince John, but he's not always like a prevalent villain in all the shows.
Yeah.
Not even in this show. Like he doesn't even appear
Yeah,
until
I
season
noticed
3.
that. I was like, oh, when is he? I was like, isn't Prince John supposed to? Because the only other like Robin Hood media I really know much about is like the Disney cartoon. Like I'm not super familiar with Robin Hood lore.
Which, by the way, I was going to mention.
Fun, actually.
Did you see? Apparently, Disney's going to remake it for Disney Plus.
They're doing a live action, and it's not like just
quote unquote live action
anthropomorphic Robin Hood.
It's not gonna. If they go the Jon Favreau route of like,
it's not gonna be just like a fox walking. Like they're gonna keep them like anthropomorphic, but live action. I'm like, just make like a CGI Zootopia looking Robin Hood. You know.
That I would be more okay with that, but
I don't. But does
I still don't want it remade though. But
yeah, no, they don't need to.
Anyways, that was.
But anyways, I'm not familiar with Robin Hood lore, so it was kind of cool just to like learn these characters sort of from scratch.
I really wish that the writers for this show would make because like the past few like up until. Like after Ridley Scott's movie, which I actually liked, not a lot of people liked it. I thought it was okay.
Yeah.
All the Robin Hood adaptations after that have just not been. I say that because I haven't even watched it, but I know like the newer Robin Hood movie,
Taron Egerton. Whatever. I didn't bother with it.
Apparently, I mean, everyone said that it was bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got Jamie Foxx in it. Like, what the heck?
Yes.
And I mean, Jamie Foxx is a fine actor, but
he can be great, but
fit in
really
with
weird
the Robin
as
Hood
a
lore.
Robin Hood character.
Yeah. And then there was like this weird YouTube original animated show called Sherwood. And it's
like Robin Blade
Hood,
Runner.
Yeah, I mean, Robin Hood is a girl, and it's takes place in the future.
Yeah,
and it's just like no, don't. But I wish the writers of this show would make like a modern. Like I wish they would either make a new show or like a new movie. I would be totally okay with that because like even though it's not perfect, I feel like they captured the best version of Robin Hood, honestly.
Yeah, and Robin Hood works as a series.
Yeah.
I feel like movies are fine, but movies always try to like, oh, now he's Robin Hood, but the movie's over. It's like a show you can develop him becoming the Robin Hood character and then have a series about him being Robin Hood. Like it works perfect. And even like something about this show I liked. I thought the production quality was actually pretty good. Like the cities, buildings, it's not like mind blowing.
Yeah, there's a lot of love put into it.
Yeah, I could tell there was a lot of like creative passion, and
sometimes but you can also tell that there are limitations.
Oh, totally.
As well.
Like there's a lot of
the
like
first
reuse.
couple seasons, the chainmail is literally just cloth.
Yeah.
And they don't get real chainmail until the third season.
Yeah, there's definitely some cheapness, but in terms of location and like I don't know if they built the buildings and houses and themselves and stuff, but that all like looked great. I thought the costumes were mostly like convincing. Sometimes they looked cheap, but especially like the weaponry. But even like the action scenes were like, even though they were goofy, they were still like pretty well done for what they are.
One of my favorite fighting sequences was in the finale of season 1 when it's so the finales are always 2-parters, and it was the second episode, the beginning of that one, when like Marion has supposedly just died, and the sheriff of Nottingham and Guy and the rest of the soldiers have come to like surround him, and then Robin Hood is just full of rage because Marion's dead, and he goes out there, and then like people are like, what is Robin Hood doing? This is suicide. And so they like all join him, and then all the other band members that they thought were gone, they come back, and it's just this really cool sequence. Like the music is like very emotional because you think, are they gonna like die or something? And the camera movement is really good, and the choreography is
it was really well
good.
done. I remember really liking that. I could tell. I didn't know it was the season finale, but when I was watching it, I was like, I can tell this is a season finale.
Yeah, it just like has
like
that
they upped
feeling.
To their game a bit.
Yeah, I feel like the end of that episode was a little kind of goofy.
Yeah,
with like the fake King Richard or whatever.
Yeah, I thought that was strange.
Yeah, it was a weird way to end it.
It didn't really make sense to me, but it
wasn't as climactic as like the rest of that finale.
Yeah,
but
totally.
But it's still fun. I still really loved the whole dynamic of like Robin being kind of selfish and being all like, oh, Marion's gonna Mary Gisborne, and
Yeah.
like I don't care about anything else, and then
He's
like
a big
Much,
old simp.
yeah,
Robin simp.
Simp.
But he really was. But
He was, and then Much is like, dude, like we have to care about the king, which like the king wasn't real, but
Yeah.
like, in a way he was right. And then Robin's all just like, you know what, I hate you.
Yeah.
And that's really like, geez,
that's why
Robin.
I like Much, because he's just like, you're being just. Ugh.
I love how he's Robin's like, you're like a pox that I can't scratch, and you never go away. And Much is just like, you go away. I love it.
You're like a pox on my skin. I keep scratching, but you never go away.
You go away.
Yeah, he's great.
Another-
I really, the first season was really great. Even like the second. and
Okay,
third
yeah,
season,
let's
so.
talk about the seasons, because there are differences in like qualities in certain areas.
Yeah.
I feel like season 1 is great in like the script area, even though there are a few episodes that are kind of campy
Yeah.
and like kind of filler, but
It had a good
but
like
they're still fun.
flow and pace to it.
Yeah, and the quality isn't great. The production quality isn't great.
Yeah.
It's something that definitely improves over the show. But season 2 comes along, and I feel like the campiness was like escalated in a lot of the episodes.
I
The
would
quality
agree.
gets better, but like,
It's definitely a lot more campy and cartoony, and it's like, all right, kill the sheriff. Nope, we couldn't do it. New
Yeah, and,
antics.
like,
It's like a lot of that.
I really don't like the episode with his sister.
Yeah.
That was kind of weird, and
I think I was just like on my phone a lot during that. There were some episodes I got a little bored during season 2.
yeah, and they try different things. There's like one episode that's like, okay, this is like they're like getting into Indiana Jones territory here for some reason.
It was kind of enjoyable, but it was weird.
Yeah.
It was kind of out of place.
One of my favorite episodes, though, was Treasure of the Nation one, where Queen Eleanor Victoria, or whatever her name is, comes along. That's a fun episode.
Yeah,
you know, they're
totally.
like trying to find the treasure of the nation, and turns out to be the queen and everything.
I did like that.
Your Majesty.
I know you. Queen Eleanor of Aquitaine. The Queen Mother.
Thesaurus Patriae. You're the treasure of the nation.
Why such formality, Robin of Locksley? I thought we were friends. You're late, Robin.
And
it wasn't a bad season at all. There were some aspects of it were either too much of this or not enough of that.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And like I said, it has been a while since I've watched most of that season. I remember at the time thinking that season 2 was like the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
But looking back, maybe not so much, just in certain areas. Characters are great.
Characters are still fine, for
yeah.
sure. They don't like ruin any of the characters or anything. It's really just like the pacing and the tone of the show just aren't as consistent. And there's a lot of like repetition, and I'm just like, I remember at one point I kind of got like a feeling I got from Breaking Bad, where it's like, all right, we're trying to like take this guy down, but we failed, got away again. All right, doing it again, failed, got away again. Like then with the sheriff and stuff, and I was just like, it's happening again. All right, like just get him, God. Like, and so I remember just at one point I kind of got that feeling. It's not as bad as it was.
I mean,
Breaking Bad was like frustrating. But
They
with
do
this,
have
I
a
was
good
just-
excuse for it, though, because it turns out like if we kill the sheriff, then Prince John's going to come in and like destroy the whole town.
Yeah, so like that aspect I think kept it like cool for me. But it did get a little repetitive, some of the plots and stuff, but overall it was still like a solid season.
What do you feel before we get into season 3? What were your feelings about the Sheriff of Nottingham?
Really, I feel like he was a little like cartoonishly evil sometimes.
Really?
But I still sometimes.
Okay.
There were some moments where I was like, okay, but I think mostly, like, I hated him in like the same way that the characters hated him, so it's good.
Okay.
I thought he was really well done, although sometimes the campiness really showed. But I think overall, like, I mean, that's why I got frustrated, because I really wanted them to just get rid of him.
Yeah.
In like a way where I felt kind of like annoyed by him. But
Okay.
I don't know. Sometimes it was because of like, I guess his, the tone of the character, but sometimes I just sympathized with like the frustration of the characters and stuff.
That's interesting, because I remember like watching the show and him being like one of my favorite parts.
Yeah, he was great, but there was his moments. But I still think overall he was like a really fantastic antagonist.
Yeah, I think the actor Keith Allen, you could tell
He's
that
great.
he was having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
And like I think it's a Johnny Depp Jack Sparrow situation where he like made the character his own.
Yeah, totally.
You know, and I just think that was a lot of fun, and I think the writers were like,
I think he got a
this
lot
guy.
better like the more he was in the show, which is a common theme with some actors on the show, but I think maybe I felt he was kind of like corny at first, but after a while I was like, he's great.
Yeah.
Your heart must be the coldest place on earth.
You're a little disappointed that you told me about your offer. I'm surprised it took you so long, to be quite honest with you. I mean, I was really getting rather bored.
And now I've served my purpose.
You tried to kill me! Do you think I'm gonna let that pass? Robin Hood did not die in Nottingham. Did you know this, huh? Well then, just as a treat, you can die together. This is good.
A lot of times, me and my siblings, we would end up quoting him.
Yeah.
Be like, a clue, no.
Yeah.
Or like, la di da di da.
He was just really fun to watch.
Yeah.
Very, very entertaining. And anytime there was like anything involving him, it was pretty hard to like want to not watch the like. Pay
He kind of
you know?
steals the scene, you know.
Yeah, that actor did a really great job, and it was campy in like good way, like Star Trek villain campy.
He's just also just really funny a lot of times. Like I would laugh out loud at a lot of stuff that he does.
Yeah, totally.
It's really interesting because the actor doesn't really do a whole lot. He hasn't really done a whole lot out of the show. He actually like has his own band, I guess.
Nice.
I have a book, an autobiography that he wrote that I actually haven't even. I pointed to something, but it's not there.
Oh, so I was like Genesis poster.
I was more pointing in the direction of my books that I have in my room.
Oh, okay.
But it's called Grow Up or something.
Yeah.
And I haven't read it yet, but he's just a really interesting character.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I've seen him in, he had a short scene in the movie Trainspotting. And
did I see that movie? I know
that's the one with what's his face? Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Oh yeah, I know that.
Ewan
movie.
McGregor. Yeah,
I don't know if I've seen.
He had like a short scene as a drug dealer.
Oh, nice.
I was watching it recently. I was like, "That's the sheriff."
Yeah.
And I like sent a picture to my sister. Like, that's him.
Oh, nice.
And he was also the bad guy in Agent Cody Banks 2.
Yeah.
Did you remember him from that?
I don't think I'd recognized him honestly from anything.
Gotcha. So yeah, that's the sheriff. Let's talk about. Was there anything else that we wanted to mention about season 2?
No, not really. I was kind of about to move on to season 3, and
Season
I kind of
3.
wanted to talk about the ending.
Okay, yeah.
too.
Let's talk about the ending of season 2 because I think those episodes are fantastic.
Yeah.
Not like perfect because it's like set in the desert and no
Well, yeah,
the first
what parts-
episode,
yeah.
I love that first episode when they're trapped in the barn. That's like some of the best moments in
I kind of liked
season.
the change of location and stuff like that.
Yeah, and how it was like just kind of confined to one spot.
Yeah, I think stuff like that is really cool to me. I like when shows and it didn't feel like it was like that because they couldn't afford. Or I like when shows kind of limit themselves and like, how can we write something cool?
Even though when they tried to make the army, okay, so what happens is that they end up getting like trapped in this barn and they end up surrounded by all these mercenary men hired by the sheriff. And it's really funny because they do this on other times in the show where the camera shots, they try to make it look as if there's like a lot of people.
But yeah, it's like really like
it's obviously very limited and they're
it's
just
like
showing
5
same
people, and they're just like, all right.
Not 5 people. It's not that bad, but it becomes obvious. But I still love that episode because it's like you get to know like the deep, dark secrets of each of the characters.
Yeah, it was a really good character development episode. I don't know if I liked it as much as the season 1 finale. Maybe like almost as much, but I still thought it was really, really good and like one of the highlights of that season and probably the series. And I love situations where you kind of are like, I don't know how they're supposed to get out of this situation.
Yeah.
And I like seeing these characters. That's my favorite aspect, is the characters figuring out how to like deal with the situation together and stuff. That's the fun. That's like the best parts of Star Trek, is the characters figuring out how do we get out of this situation. And that's the best parts of this show as well. And I think that part of the episodes and stuff were really highlighted it really well.
Leaving Alice, running to the forest, was wrong. Wrong. That's why I'm a huge, ugly, stupid, useless coward.
John.
That's why I'm always saying it much. Today is a good day to die, because for me, it is. I deserve to die. I left the people that loved me, the 2 people that should have depended on me, my own child. What was I thinking?
Yeah, I think it's something that is kind of a little lacking in a lot of season 2. Some of the episodes just kind of become plot based and they don't give a whole lot of time for the characters.
Was weaker on not weaker on the characters in the sense that they were worse, but weaker in the development aspect of them. Like they didn't really grow a ton or change all that much.
Yeah,
which is fine.
But they make up for it in that episode.
Yeah, totally. That kind of like made season 2 like a good season for me.
Yeah,
I feel like if they didn't have that, I would have been like, it was an okay season, but that made it like, okay, this is good. It like wrapped up really well and stuff. So
yeah, those 2 episodes are the most watched for me. And then they end up getting out Alan Adale, who has betrayed them, for most of the season. I guess that was one interesting thing about season 2 was Alan Adale betraying them and working for Guy of Gisborne. That was one interesting character dynamic of that show that I thought went really well.
Yeah, I did like that. Sometimes stuff like that, I'm like, okay, and then they're gonna, I don't know, usually stuff like that ends.
You don't really
up
see
not
that
being
in any other show, really, where a good guy, like, all of a sudden is a bad guy,
Yeah, it was interesting, and I feel like a lot of shows that try to do that, they do it poorly because it's either really obvious the whole time, and you're like, okay, of course, or they have one episode where they do that, and then they're like, oh, never mind, I'm good again. It's like a plot for one episode, but I think it's cool that
he ends up redeeming himself.
Yeah, they like went into it and they actually had like a cool arc about it. They didn't just have it be like it didn't feel like they just ran out of ideas.
Right.
Like it felt pretty purposeful. And my problem with plot lines like that, it just feels like usually the show ran out of ideas. It's like, let's make this guy bad for an episode.
Yeah.
But this one, it worked, and I appreciated that because when it is pulled off well, that's the thing I like about this show is it is really tropey, but it does the tropes like well, and it has original elements to it. So it's like, I may have seen something like this before, but
they make
seeing
it their
how
own.
these characters deal with this thing is interesting.
Yeah,
because I actually care about them, and that makes it fun to watch. So, and that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah.
So
they get out of there. They end up going to the Holy Lands to save King Richard because they're going to kill him. And Marion is kind of captured with them. And eventually it all leads to the not the final confrontation, but the final confrontation of the season. And Marion gets killed by Gisborne himself.
Yep, for real.
We're going to get out of this. I'm going to do this thing, and then I will have power beyond measure. And we will be together.
I would rather die than be with you, Guy of Gisborne. I'm going to marry Robin Hood. I love Robin Hood. I love Robin Hood.
Yeah, how did you feel about that?
It was surprising.
Yeah.
I definitely wasn't really expecting that because I didn't think she was going to die because they killed her and brought her back. So part of me was like,
they had some guts.
Yeah, I was like, oh, they did that to just scare you and make you think she could die, and then they brought her back. So part of my mind was like, okay, all these characters are just invincible.
Yeah.
So I actually liked it.
Yeah.
It did feel kind of out of nowhere. I didn't know, but I mean,
did it seem out of character for a guy to just kill her?
It seemed extreme, but at the time, it didn't seem like something he, I guess, shouldn't have.
It was
done.
kind of like a spur of the moment, not premeditated kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because he was like so mad because he really thought that Marion loved him or whatever.
Yeah.
And she's loved Robin Hood this whole time.
It worked for me because Guy is so consistently like trying to win Marion over throughout like a lot of the previous episodes and stuff. And there's like, it's sort of like that love triangle complex where Marion's like, no, Robin, I'm going to marry Sir Guy. And then she finally breaks Sir Guy's heart. He's like, no. And so he was always like, you know, kind of a horrible person and stuff. So it didn't seem too out of character for him to like want to do something like that.
Yeah.
Although that's the only thing about it that bugs me is like it makes his redemption like somewhat impossible.
Yeah.
Which is why I liked his character
it's
because
like,
he
he's
gets
come
to
so
that
far.
point, but it's like, oh, but he like killed a main character that Robin Hood loved and stuff, so they can't just redeem him.
Yeah.
Because then people would be like, oh, you're saying it's okay for murderers to, you know, so
It's not 13
that's the
reasons
only
why.
reason I don't like it is because it prevents him from being fully redeemed. But I think it would have been interesting if there was an aspect where Robin's like, I don't like you, but like you've grown and you're a different person now, blah, blah, blah. But then again, in my mind, I'm like, would that be way too left field to try and redeem him after something like that? So I kind of get why they went the direction with him that they did, but I still like that there was something even after that.
Yeah. And they did take their time with that, and going into season 3, you know, of course, and it starts off like right when they get back to England, and Robin Hood is like furious.
Oh yeah,
and his main goal, which I thought was a little weird because that's not how it seemed that season 2 ended, and all of a sudden season 3 he's like angry now.
Yeah, it was kind of weird.
But the thing is that makes more sense that he would be angry. I just felt like that if they were planning on doing that in the first place, they should have hinted that at the end of season 2.
Yeah,
but
they should have like ended the season with like showing him just like really pissed off.
Yeah,
like that would have been a pretty like hardcore way to end it. But
yeah,
I am conflicted on that, but in a good way. Because I think it's probably doing what the show intended, where it's like, yes, this person did something horrible, but can horrible people really be fully redeemed? And it makes you think about like, should it be okay for this guy to be forgiven after what he did? And even I'm like, well, you know, just like I was talking about like 20 seconds ago, I was like, well, is it too far to like redeem him and have all the characters forgive him after that? Or do they have to have his redemption be through some kind of like sacrifice or death?
Yeah.
So I feel like they handled it like as well as they could have, and it was complicated, and it made me think about stuff like that. And that's why I like it. And that's why I like him as a character, because his motives, his situation, what he does, he's so extremely bad, but he still shows some humanity. And it made me like think about those complexes, like, oh, would I be able to like eventually forgive someone who murdered my wife or my girlfriend or whatever? So he brought a really interesting
5 minutes.
Yeah, and it's something that I feel like a lot of shows wouldn't do.
Yeah,
and it did feel for a show like this, it was pretty gutsy.
Me and Gisborne will go to York and bring him back. If for any of you, you know I'd do the same.
And he'll bring my brother back to meet Robin. There is no one to stop his execution.
Look, like it or not, we share a common goal. To destroy Isabella. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. You don't have to like me. I don't like you. But you need me.
We don't need you.
If he can help rid us of Isabella...
He's pure evil! Robin!
Do you still believe good conquers evil? You need me to defeat Isabella, and to do that, we need our brother in York.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel like I referenced 13 Reasons Why earlier. It doesn't feel like that they're trying to justify anything that they did.
Yeah.
Because like when it comes down to it in season 3, it's not just like he's not really just like I'm very sorry, please forgive me. It's more like you have no choice but to like let me join your group because we have a common enemy.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not like they're like at first, oh yeah, we forgive you. It's more like, well, we don't trust you at all. We still hate you, but you can help us out in this
exactly
situation.
like Zuko.
Yeah.
Because they all want to kill the Fire Lord. They don't like Zuko, but I mean, it's I love stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I love when like arch rivals kind of end up having to work together.
Yeah.
You can say that's a tropey thing, but a lot of things don't do it because it's hard to pull off properly.
Yeah.
And yeah, I loved the aspect of like, oh, I don't want to work with you, but we have to. And I think that was my favorite aspect of the show, probably.
Yeah.
It worked really well.
Yeah, and it definitely is my favorite aspect of season 3, which there are some things to complain about in season 3. First of all, well, the quality is definitely improved.
Yeah.
Like the way that the show is made and everything. They finally have chainmail.
Yeah.
But we get introduced to a couple new characters. Friar Tuck, which I really liked him.
I did too.
He was one of my favorite characters. Although there are sometimes he's kind of like the most perfect character in the band, and he doesn't really have much of a character arc or anything.
Yeah, he's like likable, but he's just kind of...
He's mostly just there to
he serves a purpose.
Yeah, he's there to encourage Robin Hood, and like, I mean, he literally like brings back the legend of Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Because Robin Hood's like given up because Marion is gone, and so he encourages him. And so, I mean, that's cool.
Yeah, he was definitely there just to like be sort of like a push for Robin.
Yeah.
He doesn't have much of a character of his own, but he enhances other characters really well. Which it's the last season. It would be
there's only so much that you can do.
You can't introduce a new character, show their flaws, have development, have them change. So having just a character that enhances other characters, I think that's fine as long as it's not someone who is around the entire show and that's all they do. But he's in one season.
Yeah.
Of a relatively short show, and I think he served his purpose well.
Why are you doing this?
You know, years ago, when I left this country, the people of this nation were proud, strong, full of spirit. Now I come back to find their backs broken, their hope shattered. Everywhere I go, I see fear and suspicion haunting their faces. And yet, everywhere, I hear one name. Even from the mouths of children. One name whispered in hope. One name that keeps the flame of England burning. Robin Hood.
Well, maybe that name's already dead. Because I'm done with it.
Yeah.
He's not even like one of my favorite characters, obviously, but I think he's cool.
But yeah, people, he's a welcome addition.
Yeah.
As opposed to one of the most hated characters in the whole show, Kate.
Yeah. What do you think of Kate?
I remember watching the show and like I really wanted to like her because I didn't want to hate anything about Robin Hood.
Yeah.
But she becomes a very obvious like Marion substitute. And
yeah, totally.
It doesn't work, and she's just very annoying. She comes off as very annoying, and I think she gets better as the show progresses, like in the end.
Yeah, I was gonna say she has like moments later on where she's fine, but in my mind I was like, they really just like can't let Robin be without a love interest.
Yeah,
Like,
and they even try it with Gisborne's sister.
Yeah.
Is it Isabel?
I think so.
It's been so long since
I think so. I honestly don't remember.
Isabella.
Yeah. But to me, I was just like, okay, well, obviously, it just felt like, okay, we need a love interest, so let's throw her in there.
But also, it becomes like a
wonder,
love triangle between Much and Alan, and it's really weird.
I don't like love triangles, so I didn't like that either. This season wasn't bad. It still was like a good season. It didn't damper the series as a whole. But
and also
it had the most like things about it. Like a lot of like stuff about romance I didn't care for.
Also, I forgot we don't have Jack or Will Scarlet anymore.
Yeah, and Jack was
they
like,
left the show.
Jack was like my favorite too.
She was great. Yeah, and I guess
she would probably be my other favorite aside from Gisborne.
Yeah, I loved her. I guess Kate is like also just a replacement for Marion and Jack at the same time.
Totally.
But I think as the show went on, I think the writers realized, let's kind of like put her in the background a little bit.
Yeah, because it's funny because it's like, let's make her like a love interest, but then the show ends with like him like when he dies.
Yeah.
Which I do love this. The way they kind of, I guess, show
I
his
cried.
death. I couldn't, in my mind, I'm like, is this actually happening? Or like, is this supposed to be pretty symbolic of his death? But like when he walks off, and I mean, obviously it's not literally happening, but when he has his goodbyes with everyone, and it's like really, it makes me think of, this is a super weird comparison, but it's the only other popular show I can think of that people will be able to get what I'm comparing it to.
Yeah.
But moments in shows where a character's leaving and they get to have a moment with all the characters before they're off the show. Like with Michael Scott having his goodbye with everyone in the office.
Oh, yeah.
Like stuff like that. So I like that it's not like as intense as that or drawn out, but it's he just, he says something to everyone and it was emotional and it was really sad and got me a little. And then he kind of just walks off and then you see Marion and
I actually really
that part was
loved
it was
that.
great. It was a great way to like
when you just see Marion smile, it's just like, oh.
She like walks out and like reaches his hand down.
She's like an elf.
He's like so happy to see her, and it makes like his death like bittersweet because it's like, oh, it's like he's dead and it sucks, but like obviously Marion was like the most important thing to him, and now you get to see him,
which you kind of forget about her for most of that season.
So it's cool to see him like at least die happy, and then they show him and he's actually dead and they carry him off and stuff.
I have waited for you.
I knew I would find you again.
It's time.
But I really liked the way they visually handled his death. I thought, it wasn't just him laying on the ground and everyone is like just staring at him and then they all like give us, it wasn't just like he dies and then everyone cries and it's over. Like
it's more like
they have a closure, like
they
show his closure through his death, and I like that because it felt pretty original.
Yeah,
'cause a lot of times when a character dies, it's just like they die and everyone is upset, and like it's like something really quick and rushed that the character says or something. But it was cool how they closed off his character in the show, and I thought it was really well done.
Yeah,
and it was great, and I liked that whole thing a lot.
Yeah,
so.
A lot of people were really pissed off at Alan Adale's death more than Robin Hood's death.
Yeah.
Did you feel like that his death was unnecessary? Because that was a lot of people's consensus.
Kinda. I mean, I'm pretty easygoing with stuff like this.
Yeah,
sometimes.
me too. I'm not the kind of. I don't mind when characters die as long as it's done well.
A lot of people, like one of the blogs I saw was just people being mad because I like this character and I don't want them to die.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it was unnecessary. It maybe felt like, okay, the show is wrapping up. We need to like have some stuff happen, maybe. But it didn't feel unnecessary. Like, I'm glad that this show has the guts to actually kill off characters that people like.
Yeah.
Especially with like Maid Marian. Like it made it feel like characters were actually in danger.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just because at first I was like, oh, everyone's just invincible, and then she actually dies, and I'm like, oh. So I like that. Which it's not like a ton of other main characters died or anything, but some did, and
Yeah.
I appreciate that about the show. It's not just a fairy tale happy ending. And I thought when I remember trying to guess how the show would end, I didn't expect Robin Hood to like die at the end of the show. I thought it was going to end with like some big thing happens and then they resolve the issue and it's like a few minutes of them at a camp and then like
everything's
a rich guy walks along the road and they all look at each other and it's like da, 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 and they all
Here we go again.
Freeze frame of Robin in the air with his bow and it ends.
I love how it's just a rich guy and they're like, we gotta
Kill
get him.
But I really thought it was gonna have like this corny like happy everything's fine ending, but I like that the show I really like that. Ooh.
Oh geez. Is it raining?
That is some loud thunder. But I like
Dude,
that
it's
the
just
show
like last time. Every time you come here, it's storming.
God's like, you shouldn't be doing it. But yeah, it was crazy. And yeah, I love how it ended. Tonally, it was great.
Yeah,
and it actually made me emotional. I legit was like emotional, and it wasn't the only time in the show I got emotional, but it was definitely a really satisfying. I don't know if satisfying is the right word. Because
satisfying conclusion.
Yeah, it was a good way to end the show. Like, conclusively. You know?
Yeah. I'm actually a big fan of that finale for that season as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very apparent that they really tried to go above and beyond because they have this whole castle siege, and it's interesting because I remember there was one episode, where the sheriff, they don't know where the sheriff is.
Yeah.
He's all lost. And so everyone's freaking out because they know that Prince John is going to come in and like destroy the castle. And his men do come and it's like, oh gosh, this is going to happen. And then the sheriff arrives and it's like, oh, I kind of wanted to see that.
Yeah.
And they fulfill that in this episode.
Totally.
And I think it was done really well
I agree.
with the budget that they had.
This is one of like the best like examples of a show using its budget as well as it can.
Yeah.
Because it never like it had moments of cheapness for sure, but I was never like, wow, this looks like garbage. It was the way. I think maybe the tone of the show helps. If it was trying to be as serious as something like Game of Thrones, I probably wouldn't be able to take it that seriously.
Yeah.
But I think they use their elements as best as they can, and sometimes it's like, okay, they couldn't film that, obviously, or okay, they definitely ran out of budget for that scene, or they couldn't have enough extras for this.
Yeah.
But it's nothing that hampers the narrative or the characters. That's kind of why sometimes I like older, lower budget shows, because shows then were like, okay, we really have to make these characters likable because we can't have CG dragons and cities exploding,
right,
and stuff.
Which I mean, I feel like that's how it should be, anyways.
Totally, I agree.
A show or
Even
a movie
with
shouldn't be all
budget.
about spectacle,
Yeah, that's like Game of Thrones at first was both.
Yeah.
It was spectacle and great writing and characters, and it eventually just became spectacle. And this show is a good like use of low budget for something like this, having to have huge battles and scenes of war and, sets and houses and buildings and making everything look of its time that the show takes place in.
Yeah.
Having a low budget for that has to be really hard, and I think they did as good as they could.
Yeah, but
really
also you can tell that they're like, yeah, we have a low budget, but we really want this show to end with a bang, and so they really put their heart into it.
Totally,
And,
it was a great finale.
yeah, and I also like how it eventually came down just to like the few characters, like the face off with Robin Hood, the sheriff, Gisborne, Isabella.
Yeah,
how appropriate. A battle so huge should come down to the important few. A new one. Don't know you, do I?
He's my mother's foolish mistake. Look at us. The whole sorry family.
Together. Brothers in arms.
Yeah, it's nice when finales know how to be constrained and focus on what's important.
Yeah.
Not just like, all right, have to have some huge spectacle. It's like, no, we need to have like, because this show's about the characters, so they know that the finale has to be something conclusive and intense about the characters.
Yeah.
And not just put them in a big battle where it doesn't feel personal or anything. They put them in situations where it does feel personal, and I liked that.
Yeah.
Sure, it's not like that throughout the whole show, and there are some filler episodes and some episodes that were boring, and maybe I didn't love all the romantic aspects, but luckily the romantic stuff isn't really the focus of the show, even though you can argue it is because of like Marion and Robin, and that's a really important aspect, but they give enough.
I'm still looking for my Marion to my Robin Hood.
But they give enough character and things for Marion to do where she's not just a romantic thing, so that's not all she is, and that,
she's not just there to be Robin Hood's girlfriend.
Exactly, and then hence it doesn't just feel like a soap opera with bows and arrows,
and to show like just how important a character she was. I think that's although I commend the show for having the guts to kill off a character, you can tell that the show kind of suffers from Marion not being there, which I don't think that had to be the case.
It kind of at one point I was like, I feel like the actress just left. I don't think I wonder if they planned.
I think a lot of it were because I honestly I think one of the big reasons that the show only had 3 seasons and Robin Hood was only, in it for 3 seasons was because of contractual agreement.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure from what I remember, Jonas Armstrong only agreed for 3 seasons and wasn't interested in pursuing it further than that. And so that I think they pulled it off well, but I think that is a big reason why Robin Hood was all of a sudden, just killed. Like, oh, I'm poisoned. But I think they did it well.
Yeah, it didn't feel too rushed. It did feel like, okay, the show's wrapping up, let's go. But it didn't feel like they didn't plan for it. You know? It still had a satisfying conclusion, but you can tell that they wanted to get as much out of the show as they could.
Yeah.
But you could tell they at least knew it was going to be as long as it was. It's not like they planned too much and then had to quickly finish it because it got canceled. Like, it didn't have that feeling.
Although, fun fact, the writers of the show actually really tried, and they even got like a petition together to continue the show, or at least try a spin-off show where it continues without Robin Hood, but with the gang, with like Archer, who is his stepbrother, as like the leader.
Yeah, because it was
gang.
like implied like Archer was like
Like taking on his role.
Yeah, he would be the next Robin Hood.
Which fun fact,
I kind of like the aspect of like, ooh, every generation has a Robin Hood.
Yeah,
and they take on the name.
Yeah,
or something.
we are Robin Hood.
Yeah, but his name is literally Robin Hood. It's not just an alias. So
right, yeah, that's true. Well,
or not Hood.
Robin of Locksley.
Yeah, not Hood, but
and
his
then
name
they
is
gave him
Robin
Hood.
Yeah.
But obviously, it never ended up happening. So, which I would have been interested to see that, but it wouldn't have been the same.
Jonas Armstrong is just like the charismatic core of the show for me, so I wouldn't have liked it as much, I'm sure. But
yeah, and it's kind of sad because like Jonas Armstrong hasn't really done a whole lot since then.
Yeah,
he was a side character in that movie, that Tom Cruise movie. Was it Live, Die, Repeat or whatever the name of that movie was?
Yeah, what's it called? Edge of Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow, yeah.
He was in that?
He was like one of the side characters. I actually haven't seen that movie.
I liked that movie. I'll have to watch it.
He was like one of the soldiers on Tom Cruise's side.
Oh, cool.
Didn't have a huge part in it, but... And then more recently, there was a show called Troy that was like trying to be like a 300 show, and he was like... He was like the king or whatever. The show wasn't that great, but I was like kind of excited. Like, he has his own Netflix show now. Yeah. I was just going to tell a quick funny story that happened that took place after Robin Hood had ended. So apparently Jonas Armstrong was like hanging out with his friends late one night and like got really drunk, and they went on a little like escapade, and Jonas Armstrong ended up going to like this neighborhood or whatever, and he's drunk and he's pounding on all their front doors and being like, "Hello, it's me, Robin Hood."
Oh my god.
And just like laughing.
Where people like, go away.
Well, he got like in trouble for it with like the law, and I feel like that kind of had an effect on his career. And I remember at the time feeling like disappointed because like this was my hero, but looking back on it, like it's kind of funny actually.
Yeah, that's not a big deal.
Oh yeah, compared to today,
like Twitter wouldn't get mad over that probably.
No, it was just really, really funny, and like I can't imagine, like, what if that were me, like, in one of those houses, and then I just hear Robin Hood.
Yeah, it's like, wait,
it's me, Robin Hood.
Yeah, what if he like did
Mom,
that?
Dad, let him in.
Yeah, like I'm imagining if he did that to your house when you were like in love with the show, you know? It's like, what?
That would have been a dream come true, but also like, I don't know.
It would have been like weird to meet somebody you look up to when they're drunk. It's like, oh, hi, you're not gonna remember this. That's super
Just
funny.
have Jonas Armstrong stay the night at my house because he's so drunk and
Take
he
care
wakes
of him in
up.
the morning.
Like, I'm like, hi, I totally haven't been here watching you.
Your arms really are strong. But yeah, just some conclusive thoughts. Overall, I liked it more than I expected to, if I'm being honest. I expected to think it was like a nice, charming show and then have fun with it, but I genuinely got really into the characters, and the high points of the show were really great. There wasn't any episode where I was like, this sucks. Like, I really thought it was pretty consistently good with like a couple boring, what show doesn't?
I feel like
there's rarely a show that doesn't at least have some bad filler episodes, but this one was kind of in that boat. Like, it didn't really have a lot of episodes that seemed like, and if it was like a filler episode, it was at least like something fun was going on. There was a couple episodes in season 2 and 3 where I was like, this is like, where's this going?
I can say with confidence as a fan of the show, there are a couple episodes where I just I avoid.
Yeah.
One in particular that I think of, I'm pretty sure this is season 2. There's this episode where Little John is like with these kids or whatever, they like make him do these fights or whatever, and there's like this annoying ginger kid.
Yeah, that one was there was some episodes that was like I don't
think I've watched that episode more than twice, honestly.
That was one of the few episodes where I was just like on my laptop, just kind of like I was like passively watching it. Sometimes I would watch the show like that where I'm like, okay, like, oh wait, this seems like an interesting
really
one. Okay,
pointless.
let's pay attention.
Yeah.
But there was a few episodes where I was like, okay, whatever. But overall, as a show, I really enjoyed it a lot more than I expected to. I thought all the actors were really charming and great. I love the main cast. It's a good character show. It does development well. It actually surprised me a few times. It actually made me emotional a few times. I thought it was well produced and well made for what it was. And it's corny sometimes. And dorky and silly, but mostly in the way that I like.
Yeah, it embraces it.
The only time I didn't like the corniness was when the editing like got in the way of a serious moment or something, or I could tell like, okay, this fight scene is like obviously really fake, but the fight scenes were like either really well done or you could be like, okay, it was like
whatever,
fine.
yeah.
But mostly it was good, and I really liked it. I can see really loving this, especially if I like grew up with it, and it's easily like I haven't watched a ton of like Robin Hood related things, but it's the best Robin Hood related thing I've watched for sure.
Yeah,
and I think it's the perfect length. It starts off strong. It has a really good conclusion. It's not unsatisfying. I really liked it. Like unexpectedly, there was some moments too where I was just like, this is like great.
Yeah.
And I liked it a lot. I could see why like you would have loved this show growing up. It's a very Clifford show. And I think if you like the campiness of this, it really was just like not fantasy, but like medieval.
Yeah.
It was basically like medieval Star Trek in a way.
Yeah.
Like, the action in Star Trek is corny and stupid, but it's the characters and the development and the dialogue and the way the characters grow together is the parts that you like. So Star Trek is very much like sci-fi version. Not exactly. It's probably a really stupid comparison, but just in terms of it's corny and the action and production is kind of cheap and it's aged, but you love it because of how well written all the characters are.
And how likable they are.
Yeah. So I think that's why I liked this, because I like shows like that. So it really did kind of fit into my world a bit. So
I felt like that. I'm very glad to know that how much you enjoyed it.
Yeah,
because even
part
though
of me was like, I'm probably gonna like this, but I was wondering if maybe because I had hardly ever heard of this show. I was like, but going online, you can see a lot of people like talk about how much
at the
they
time.
liked it.
at the time of its airing, it was like one of the most popular. It was like just under Doctor Who, honestly, in terms of popularity for BBC. And I think like the three popular shows at the time for BBC were Doctor Who, Robin Hood, and there was Merlin that had a big following.
Oh, yeah.
Which is kind of pretty similar in production of Robin Hood. But I never watched it. But
I was really into Doctor Who for a while. I stopped around the time Matt Smith became the Doctor because I
still have never watched Doctor Who.
I loved the David Tennant season, but I can say I probably liked Robin Hood more than what I watched of Doctor Who. I only watched the Doctor
the newer shows.
I watched the David Tennant season and the guy before him, and I watched like a few episodes of Matt Smith. A lot of people like him. I didn't like him that much, so I stopped watching it because I got kind of bored of the show after that. But I loved the seasons before that. But I would say in terms of like BBC shows around that time, I liked Robin Hood more.
Yeah,
surprisingly.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting how big it was, and like now, like no one talks about it.
Yeah, you don't hear about it.
Although it's interesting how it kind of set off a lot of careers for like maybe Jonas Armstrong not as much. Like he's been in quite a few shows, but that didn't really take off.
Yeah.
But
I thought he was good. Like when he
really
had his like
good.
moments of having to be serious and angry, I was like, he's like a pretty good actor.
Yeah. I really hope that one of these days he's going to have a Richard Armitage moment.
Yeah.
Which obviously Richard Armitage.
He was the best actor easily in the show.
He went off to be Thorin Oakenshield in the Hobbit movies, which is still such a shame.
Took me a long time to realize that was him.
Yeah.
Because he was the best part of The Hobbit, too, aside from
Martin
Bilbo.
Freeman.
Yeah, Martin Freeman and Gandalf obviously was great, and then Thorin.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, Thorin was like the only dwarf with development, but Richard Armitage did great as him.
Yeah.
And so.
And he's also the voice of, what's his name? The main character in Castlevania.
Yeah. I need to watch season 3 because I hear it's great.
Yeah.
He's a great voice actor, too.
Yeah. He's got that voice. They're online. You can find, there are like these like sequel episodes of Robin Hood that weren't really episodes. Well, there actually are episode ones, but I guess there were like books made during the popularity of this show, and he reads them. So
nice.
I would love to just have that and just like
cool.
listen, because he's got such a nice voice.
Yeah, I think I texted you once and I was like, wait, why is he familiar? And you're like, oh, that's Richard Armitage. I was like, oh, freaking right.
Yeah.
I was like, I knew that.
Yeah,
it's just, I was so used, I hadn't seen him much except The Hobbit, and I was like, it's just weird seeing him look tall.
Yeah, he's an underrated actor. Even after being in The Hobbit, I feel like he still hasn't received the acclaim that he should get. He just had his own show on Netflix called The Stranger, which was pretty decent.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I'm trying to think who else. Much, of course, was in Chernobyl.
Yeah.
Harry Lloyd, who played Will Scarlet, was in one season of Game of Thrones as Daenerys' brother.
Oh, right. You did mention that.
Yeah, the
That's
one who
cool.
gets killed by melting gold.
Yeah.
Which he did great in that. And he's actually like a direct descendant of the author Charles Dickens.
Oh.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
That's
because
cool.
like I have this audio drama production of Oliver Twist, and he plays one of the bad characters, and they mentioned that he's like, yeah, I really love doing this because I'm a direct descendant of Charles Dickens.
Yeah.
So, and I'm trying to think of anyone else. I know the girl who played Isabella was also in Sherlock, the show Sherlock.
Oh, right.
So, yeah, I think that's it. Oh, Archer. He is one of the main characters in Vikings, the show Vikings.
Oh, right. I've watched a little bit of that.
Yeah, me too. I haven't watched the whole show. I kind of lost interest. But he's like the brother, who like becomes like, I think they eventually like become adversaries.
Yeah.
But he's the brother.
Okay.
So
that's cool.
Yeah, and I've seen other characters like Little John and such, and like other little things, but nothing really.
Yeah.
Of that was like really big. Like I saw Little John in one episode of Sherlock. Anyways, so yeah, Robin Hood kind of like set careers for a lot of people in different ways. Marion was in she was a character in the show True Blood for a while, but I could care less about that show. But yeah, and Robin Hood, even though it's not like it's no longer my favorite show, it will always like hold a near and dear place in my heart.
Yeah.
And I've always had like some strange affinity for Robin Hood. And like I said before, I think that is my favorite depiction of Robin Hood, even though I thought like Ridley Scott's Robin Hood was like well produced.
It was like a good movie, but watching this, I like Robin Hood to not be so grim and like serious, and that movie very much was that. But
yeah,
this one was a good balance of like, okay, yeah, he's like fun, he's like a
fun, lovable
fun,
characters.
but he still like has moments where he's serious or like stupid or sometimes like questionably bad, but he was a very good balance. He was like a real person.
Yeah,
like it wasn't just he wasn't a superhero.
He was flawed, but also admirable at the same time. Like he's, I always admired like his leadership capabilities. Like even when he's like flawed, he knows how to lead a group and how to keep them together.
Totally.
And you can tell that all the characters like really respect him, even in times when they disagree with him. And
which is I love when main characters don't always agree on things.
Yeah.
That's another thing I love about Star Trek. That's the thing I loved about this. I don't like when shows just everyone always agrees and gets along, and all the conflict has to come from an outside source that you like. I like when main characters that are supposed to be best friends like don't agree and have problems like doing things together sometimes, and that show did this really well.
Yeah.
So.
Why are you skulking in the woods? What are you going to do about it?
Stop him. I'm going to stop him.
Well, you can't stop a sheriff. Only the Crown can withdraw his license.
When the King returns, he will have his comeuppance. Until then, we will scupper his sadistic punishments. We will stop his insane taxes and give them back to the poor where they belong.
Sure.
We will rob him. And if you dead men had had spines in your backs, that's what you would have been doing for the last 5 years.
Rousing, Lavender Boy.
Good luck. Yeah. See ya.
Yeah, so talking about this has made me really like want to watch it all again, especially even the seasons that I haven't really watched a whole lot. Like I'd love to go back and revisit them. But yeah, even though we spoiled like everything, if this had, I still think it's worth it, even if you like know where things are going. I think it's worth it to at least check out if you think that you can handle a little bit of cheesiness and low budget, but also like redeeming characters and like great stories most of the time. Yeah, I guess it's on Hulu, so
if
you
you
can
like
check
medieval
that out.
type stuff, and even if you're not like, I'm not that familiar with Robin Hood, but I didn't even grow up with the show, so I can't even be like, oh, it's just nostalgia. Like I actually genuinely thought it was a good show for someone who isn't really that into Robin Hood and didn't watch it growing up. Watching this now, I can like unbiasedly say I have no bias towards the show. I actually thought it was good, and I would say it's worth watching if you're into like medieval shows and swords and bows and you just want like a cool like little, I don't know, cast of characters to hang out with for a couple seasons. I think it's worth watching. If you like character-based shows and you like the setting, I think you'll at least get some enjoyment out of it. So
Yeah, for sure.
Like if I would have watched this and I was like, this was all really boring and poorly written, if I thought you only liked it because of nostalgia, I wouldn't have like hidden that. I would have definitely told you. So I can genuinely say like, good show, and I'm glad I watched it.
Well, good.
So
I'm glad.
Yes.
All right. So stay tuned for our next episode. We're gonna, as we go into one of the most popular animes of all time, Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I guess it's an anime.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's more Western than like most other ones.
I think it's like Castlevania. It's like animated in the West, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
But it obviously has a lot of like Chinese, Asian, Japanese like culture influence and stuff. But
it was
very
like
anime inspired.
I think it was like the gateway anime show for a lot of
it could be,
Western audiences.
It's hard for me to call it an anime just because like the dialogue and it doesn't have like anime tropes.
Yeah.
But it's the style of anime, but with like the tone of an American show.
Yeah.
Just like Castlevania.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to talk about that next. And I guess I could do my recommendation.
Yep.
So
do your rec baby.
You can cut out if there's a pause here, but I'm just looking to see if there's anything I watch. Okay. Yeah. Never mind. So, which one do I recommend though? Crap. I have 2 movies I want to recommend, but I don't know which one. I'm going to go ahead and I'll recommend Shadow because I think more people would like it. But there is a movie in 2018. I think it was 2018. It was directed by Zhang Yimou. Sorry, I'm trying. But it's called Shadow. It is kind of like a samurai film. It's one of the most artistically interesting and well shot films I had seen. It is one of my favorite movies of that year now. It was so good, so stylistic, so well shot. It's weird to say it has an amazing color palette because it's like it's not black and white, but everything is like black and white. It's not like filtered that way, but just the architecture and like the clothes they wear, everything is like very desaturated in black and white, but obviously like they have their skin, blood is red still. It's so it's weird to call it beautiful, but it's like so beautifully like great
shot and everything.
But it's so good. It's pretty slow paced. It has amazing action. They have like umbrellas that are made of blades. It's ridiculous, but it's so good, and I loved it. It was, and if you want to watch, it's a Chinese film, so you have to read subtitles. Get over it, but it's a really good it's amazing action, really cool little story, and it's one of the most visually interesting films I've seen in a long time, and I absolutely loved it. So it kind of got me on like this Chinese film kick right now. Like I want to keep watching old like samurai films now. And, I mean, this is an old one, but it made me want to watch old samurai films. So.
Gotcha. All right.
So
is that
watch
available anywhere to stream?
It is on Netflix. So
Netflix.
It should be on most things, but I watched it on Netflix. It was fantastic. One of the best movies of 2018. I'm sad I just now watched it at a very limited release. So I didn't know it was on Netflix, so I was just scrolling through. I was like, oh, crap, I've wanted to watch that, and it was worth it. So, yeah, watch Shadow. It's on Netflix.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess we'll see you guys in the next episode as we continue our conversation of our favorite TV shows. Stay safe, stay healthy.
Yeah.
Wash your hands.
Stay home, and if you do go out, don't be in big crowds, and stay like a few feet away from whoever you're hanging out with, like I am.
Yep.
Because I am totally at Clifford's right now, but I'm not going anywhere else, and I'm staying far away from him. So be safe, be smart. If you go out, just be careful, and
Yep, and listen to podcasts, listen to the Podwood Forecast, listen to other podcasts, watch good movies, watch good shows. Just stay entertained and don't get depressed.
Yes,
and play video games. All right.
Good advice.
Love you all. We'll see you in the next episode, which should be out soon after this.
All right.
So, bye-bye.
See ya.
Thanks for checking out this episode of the Podwood Forecast. If you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe. And if you'd like for us to give you a shout out on the show, be sure to leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And also feel free to look in the show notes for links to our social media at Twitter and Facebook. And as always, stay beautiful, and thanks for listening.